Imagine for a moment a quiet American street during wartime. Maybe the scent of cut grass, kids playing. Then a knock at the door, and you see a messenger with a telegram. In that single instant, a family's life, a whole community's peace could just shatter. Today, we're taking a deep dive into one such story, a really profoundly human journey forged in the crucible of World War II. Our focus is the remarkable life of Staff Sergeant Virgil F. Brown. He was a young man from Sabetha, Kansas. His path took him from, well, local guard duty in a small town all the way to the highly specialized and frankly perilous skies over Germany. It's a compelling look at personal courage, yeah, but also the intricate machinery of global conflict and the sort of enduring ripple effect of war on individuals in their hometowns.
And the sources we have for this deep dive are really invaluable. We've got this rich collection of local newspaper clippings, things from the Courier Tribune, the Sabetha Herald. They meticulously chronicle Virgil's journey from 1942 right through to 1949. We've layered these really intimate community records with the crucial historical context about the intense, high-stakes WWII air operations he was part of. Together, they paint a picture that's both comprehensive and deeply personal.
So, our mission today is to meticulously reconstruct Virgil's story, from his earliest contributions right up to his ultimate sacrifice. We want to illuminate the profound human experience of war through his personal narrative and also the unwavering spirit of his community. Let's try and uncover the full measure of his dedication. Okay, so to begin our journey into Virgil's military life, we first find him in March 1942. He's not yet on the battlefront, but he's serving his community. A private in the Sabetha Company, Kansas State Guard, and he was already, it seems, a figure of responsibility, instructing in first aid alongside guys like Sproxert Martin Rucker and PVT Kenneth Joyner. He's mentioned in the local papers with other guardsmen too, like PVT MB Chase, PVT Charles Eichleman.
Yeah, and what's immediately striking, I think, is how quickly that line between local service and the national imperative just dissolved. For so many communities, their local guardsmen, the very people keeping order at home, were just rapidly absorbed into the burgeoning national war effort. This wasn't just logistics. It instantly changed the identity of these small towns. It forced this kind of reevaluation of local pride against a huge global threat, and it created this shared vulnerability that bound households together in new, often unspoken ways.
And that transition really sped up for Virgil. By August 1942, he was called to active Army duty, transferred from Caldwell, Idaho for induction over at Fort Leavenworth. He left as part of a substantial group of men from Seneca, Sabetha, the surrounding areas. Their names like Willis Eugene Barnes, Kenneth Joseph Dick, David Meyer, all carefully listed in the local papers, a real collective departure from home.
Right. And this really highlights the collective emotional weight on these small towns. Each name in that local paper represented a son, a brother, maybe a husband leaving. You can almost feel the sort of quiet apprehension and immense pride that must have settled over these communities, watching their young men, one by one, step onto buses, heading for a future that was totally uncertain. It wasn't some abstract war. It was personal. It was unfolding in real time on front porches and at train stations. Okay, so from this rapid call-up, Virgil's journey takes us somewhere pretty different, inside the intense and highly specialized world of bomber manufacturing. Let's delve into his surprising and demanding role at the Martin B-26 bomber factory. This chapter really showcases his extraordinary engineering capabilities. By April 1943, he'd already earned a promotion to corporal, and a remarkable letter he wrote from Middle River, Maryland, gives us this rare first-hand account from the heart of this crucial wartime industry. Oh, that letter is an absolute goldmine of detail, isn't it? Virgil reveals he'd already done these rigorous courses in air mechanics on B-25s and B-26s, plus advanced trainers back at Shepherd Field. So now, at Middle River, he was getting even more specialized training for the B-26 Marauder. He was becoming an aerial engineer, essentially the onboard systems expert, right? A flying crew chief, responsible for everything from engine performance to hydraulics, mid-flight, and even acting as a gunner sometimes. This multifaceted role was absolutely critical. These crews were completely interdependent. One mechanical failure the engineer couldn't fix on the fly. That could mean the loss of the whole plane, everyone on board.
Wow. And this next detail really shows his technical skill. He actually found himself impacting bomber safety before its first flight. He describes working right there on the assembly line, seeing planes built from start to finish. Then he recounts this high-stakes moment. He gets called over to troubleshoot a critical issue. A landing gear system wasn't set right. And this wasn't minor, it was a potential belly landing disaster waiting to happen. But he successfully adjusted the tire and load value. Basically, the pressure and capacity operated the gears on the jacks and meticulously made sure the plane was safe and ready for its maiden test flight.
Yeah, this anecdote just powerfully blurs the lines between the factory floor and the front lines, doesn't it?
Right.
It shows how the precision and the burden of life or death decisions wasn't just in the cockpit. It extended right down to the engineers assembling and testing these machines. Virgil's unseen work, those precise adjustments, they directly dictated the survival of others. The psychological pressure, just knowing your hands were literally holding lives in balance, even before the plane took off, that must have been immense.
And then came the ultimate test for Virgil himself, his own first flight. The pilot, with this kind of telling brevity, just said, "Grab your chute, we're going up." Virgil vividly describes his heart really pounding, being acutely aware that every job you do has to be right, for there's no stopping and fixing up in the wide open places. He said he watched the gear indicator intently the whole flight, which, thankfully, went okay. That command, "grab your chute," it just perfectly encapsulates the constant inherent danger these men faced. This wasn't just a technical job, it was an active combat position, really, demanding not just mechanical genius, but also incredible personal courage. Beyond the facts, this really underscores the extraordinary bravery it took, not just to fly these planes into battle, but to be integral to their maintenance, their test flights. Knowing any small error could be fatal. But amidst all this intense, high-pressure work, Virgil's letter paints this, well, surprisingly vivid and positive picture of life at the factory. He actually called it the soldier's paradise. Kind of optimistic, right? He describes Mata dormitories, pretty rare for enlisted men back then, with colored porters cleaning their rooms. A social structure, he noted, he never thought that would take place in army life. Interesting detail. He mentions the best food one can eat, made by women cooks, and having ample nights off, even weekend passes to DC and New York City.
Yeah, that detail offers a unique and kind of complex contrast to the often harsh, Spartan image we have of Army life during the war. It really speaks to a deliberate, maybe strategic effort to support troop morale, especially for these highly skilled guys. Recognizing the immense value and intense pressure of their specialized roles, you see. Providing these creature comforts, these opportunities for recreation, was likely seen as essential for keeping expertise and maintaining peak performance in a crucial industry, even as it reflects the social structures and norms that were prevalent in America at that time.
And he wraps up his letter with this really heartfelt message for the folks back home. Keep their chins up and we'll keep them flying with thumbs up. However, he even includes this poignant memory mentioning how he drilled in my sleep many a night when I was taking my basic training. It's just a truly human touch, isn't it? Connecting his intense new reality full of complex machinery and constant danger with those simpler foundational memories of home. Okay, so moving forward. By March 1944, Virgil had been promoted again, sergeant to staff sergeant. And he was now serving with a bombing squadron in the Atlantic area. But the next news that reached Sabetha, well, it was devastating, shattering the fragile peace for his family and the whole community.
Yeah. The Sabetha Herald, April 5th, 1944, reported Staff Secjate Virgil Brown is missing in action MIA somewhere over Germany. His parents, Mr. and Mrs. Bill Brown, they got the dreaded telegram on March 20th. Then a follow-up letter from the War Department with more details. Virgil, serving as an aerial engineer on a B-24 Liberator bomber, had failed to return on February 20th. It was from a bombing mission targeting Brunswick, a major German industrial city, maybe 150 miles northeast of Berlin.
So to really understand the gravity here, what does this specific mission mean in the context of the bigger war? This wasn't just another random raid, was it?
No, absolutely not. That mission, February 20th, 1944, was a pivotal part of Operation Big Week. This was a massive, coordinated Allied air offensive, ran from February 20th to the 25th. And it wasn't about scattered targets. This was a concentrated, really brutal assault designed specifically to cripple the German aircraft industry, war production at its core. B-24 Liberators, like the one Virgil was on, were instrumental, known for their long-range heavy bomb load, but they faced incredible odds flying deep into German airspace. Missions to targets like Brunswick, Magdeburg. They were notorious for intense German fighter attacks, often challenging weather, too. Cloud cover could complicate bombing accuracy, and it gave cover for enemy interceptors. The sheer scale of the strategic importance, it meant every single crew on those missions was flying into a maelstrom of flak and Luftwaffe fighters.
And what's just incredibly chilling is that this wasn't Virgil's first close call, not by a long shot. Just a few days before this fateful raid, he'd written his parents mentioning he had a new pilot, which, subtly implies he lost his former pilot on a previous mission. And he also recounted this harrowing incident. He'd actually parachuted to safety from just 300 feet over England when his bomber iced up mid-flight. While the pilot somehow managed to land the crippled plane, the bomb bearer was tragically killed, and another crewman broke his leg.
Right. This just truly highlights The extraordinary life-threatening dangers these air crews faced daily, maybe even hourly. Every mission carried immense risk. The ability to adapt to new crews, to survive bailouts, it was a testament to their almost unimaginable resilience. And it also just underscores the grim realities of aerial combat, doesn't it? The constant threat of loss, the immediate need to replace fallen comrades, and the psychological burden of having to keep going back up knowing the odds were stacked against you. For Virgil, surviving one ordeal like that only to face another, even more perilous one, it just speaks volumes about his courage.
The news about Virgil being missing it reverberated through Sabetha, a tragedy shared so deeply by the whole community. And in a really poignant reflection of the war's pervasive reach, the very same issue of the Sabetha Herald that announced Virgil MIA. It also reported Staff Chick Richard C. Bindle, another B-24 aerial engineer, missing in action over France on April 5th. Two sons, two engineers, both lost within weeks. Just devastating.
It really forces you to confront the emotional toll on these small towns. Imagine the agonizing wait for news, the shared whispers, the collective grief as those telegrams arrived, sometimes only weeks apart, reporting multiple sons missing. Richard Bindle's letter home, published just before he went missing, carried this desperate plea. Tell everyone hello for me and to keep the home fires burning as I'll be back someday. It's such a poignant testament to the kind of desperate hope families clung to, even when the brutal realities of war seemed to contradict it. These letters, they became lifelines, didn't they? Carrying the weight of both everyday affection and profound anxiety.
And adding to that desperate, almost clinging hope, Lieutenant Robert Fulton, a bomber navigator, son of Louis Fulton from Sabetha, he wrote home sharing an observation. He said there must be a high percentage of bomber crews saved because he often saw 10 parachutes open when bombers went down.
Yeah, that insight really reveals how vital any shred of positive news, any anecdotal hope, however small, was for these communities, especially facing such overwhelming loss and uncertainty. It wasn't just about statistics, it was about human psychology, wasn't it? These small observations, shared from the front lines, they became lifelines for families struggling to maintain belief in survival, creating a narrative of hope that often ran counter to the grim operational realities but was absolutely essential for enduring those war years.
Years later, finally, in 1949, Virgil's story found its somber conclusion, bringing a measure of closure to his family and community who had waited for so long, and who had never truly given up hope.
Indeed. In June 1949, the body of Virgil Brown, son of Mr. and Mrs. Will Brown, began its long journey home. His remains arrived in New York, then made their way to Chicago, and finally to Sabetha for burial. His original resting place, it turned out, was a battlefield grave in Brunswick, Germany. It had been discovered and identified by occupation authorities back in 1947, a full 3 years after he was lost. A painstaking process of forensic identification that gave hundreds of families similar, though heartbreaking, solace.
The Sabetha Herald meticulously detailed his memorial services. They were held on Wednesday, August 10th, 1949, at the Baptist Church. Staff Sergeant Brown was survived by his devoted parents, Mr. and Mrs. William F. Brown, two brothers, Harry and Lloyd, both living in Sabetha, and two sisters, Miss Mildred Brown of Topeka and Mrs. Lloyd Botts of Colorado Springs. His burial in the Sabetha Cemetery was conducted with full military honors by the Sabetha Post of the American Legion and Veterans of Foreign Wars. And as this powerful collective mark of respect and mourning, all Sabetha business houses closed during the services.
That final ceremony, years after the guns had fallen silent, it just powerfully underscores the deep and lasting impact Virgil's sacrifice had on his community. It wasn't just a funeral. It was a collective act of remembrance, a communal embrace, finally bringing home a son who had fought so bravely, so far away. The closing of businesses, the full military honors. These weren't just formalities. They were a profound public testament to a town's shared grief and unwavering respect, cementing Virgil's place in Sabetha's collective memory and offering a final heartbreaking tribute to a young man lost far too soon.
So we followed Staff Sergeant Virgil F. Brown's really remarkable journey, from a young man teaching first aid in Kansas to an expert aerial engineer braving the incredibly dangerous skies over Germany, and then finally his long-awaited somber return home. His story, meticulously pieced together from those humble local newspaper archives and that crucial historical context, it provides an incredibly vivid and personal glimpse into the realities of World War II service, illuminating not just the facts, but the deep human cost.
Yeah, and what this deep dive vividly illustrates is how these seemingly fragmented local reports, when you diligently collect and analyze them, they collectively paint such a comprehensive and moving narrative, a narrative of immense personal bravery, extraordinary technical skill, and the widespread, enduring impact of global conflict. It just underscores that individuals like Virgil weren't just statistics or names on a list. They were essential parts of a massive war effort. Their work, their sacrifice, it shaped history, echoing through generations in ways we're probably only now beginning to fully appreciate.
As we reflect on Virgil's experiences, the terrifying first flight, that soldier's paradise contrasting so sharply with the grim realities of combat, his community's unwavering hope and eventual mourning, it kind of leaves us to consider how many other untold stories of bravery and sacrifice, from countless small towns just like Spetha all across the country, how many are still waiting to be pieced together from dusty archives, waiting for their deep dive? What forgotten heroes might still be waiting out there for us to uncover their truth, to finally bring their journeys home?